Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker. Hey everybody, happy Thursday night, happy 1st of February. Here we are, finally the very, very long month of January is past us and we're heading on into the first quarter of the year here and just excited to be here. You're watching the Ghost Biker Garage and I am your host, the Ghost Biker. We're broadcasting live on the Facebook Ghost Biker Explorations page, on the Ghost Biker Explorations YouTube channel, on the Ghost Biker Explorations LinkedIn page, as well as My Mix 104.1. I hope everyone is having a wonderful night. For some reason, my guest has not made it on just yet, so we're going to give it just a few minutes to see if she hops on. Otherwise, it may just be me tonight, but we'll talk about something fun, and we may even open up the lines and pull anybody else on that wants to come on if she doesn't show up. So anyways, if last week we didn't have a show, I was live on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat with the host Danny Whitman, which is a magician and comedian out of Knoxville, Tennessee. If you missed that show, definitely go check our page out, and his page as well. It's there on the UFO Experiencer Network, and it was so much fun. We had such a great discussion, talked about dowsing, talked about doing some really interesting things, talked about some things with Ghost Biker that I don't always talk about on a lot of different podcasts. So if you missed that last Thursday night, definitely go check that out. The show before that, we had Miss Allie Krause. I may be saying her last name incorrect, but we had her on. She is a medium and an intuitive, and she came on the show and did a little reading for us, as well as talked about some of the really cool events that she has coming up. So go back, check out some of those past Ghost Biker exploration shows. Also, if you feel inclined, please go check out the Historic Scott County Jail podcast that I do with my lovely business partner, Dr. Christy Sumner. She's here in the studio here, or in the chat room. We do a show at 7 p.m. on Thursday nights called the Jailhouse Informant, where we talk about things from the historic Scott County Jail. We've been doing a really cool series that is on historic jails and prisons from all around the country. And excitingly enough, this week, we went international and talked to a location out of Melbourne. It was the old Melbourne jail. I know some of you, I see you in here in the chat room. You were there on the chat room there of our show that we did at 7. So if you missed that, a lot of great information on this jail that was built in, I believe, in 1845 and in operation till the 1920s. And so we've covered a lot of really cool jails. Thank you, Brandon. There was Shaman Sundays. I definitely appreciate that. So I just want to take a few minutes and say hello to everyone over here in the chat room. We got Brandon over here with Shaman Sundays. Thank you so much for being a great friend of the show, and thank you for your kind words. We definitely love you, and definitely love Leitreanna as well. Hello to Sonia Thompson, Mr. Daryl Paulette up there in Appomattox, Virginia, Kim Brady there in South Carolina, and of course, Dr. Christy Sumner here in East Tennessee, Janet Alms all the way out in Arizona. Thank you so much. I've been on some good podcasts lately. Just on on Tuesday night, I was on the Vibe Time with Jerry and her co-host David Flowers. We were on that. That was so much fun. Have that put on the page as well. That was this past Tuesday night. We actually talked about well, we talked about the jail, talked about Ghost Biker, and then also talked about photography and photography in the paranormal, and just how tricky that can be, in some of the techniques that I personally use when I'm analyzing my photographs. And also, one of the reasons you won't see a lot of my photos on my page is because I run them through my system and a lot of the time debunk them. So, so yeah, a lot of great podcasts was just released on the Grave Talks. Did one of those. It's a 2-part series where they invited me on to talk about the historic Scott County Jail. And so I'll be sharing those links tomorrow, and be going back to talk about historic rugby. Hello to Mr. Jim Cody out of K-Town here in East Tennessee. Definitely thank you all so much for watching here. And yeah, as Chris said, Melbourne, Australia was the jail that we talked to tonight. Brandon says that Lee is on her way. So we're just going to kind of kill a few minutes here while we're waiting on Lee to get on here. Mr. Bob Burnell, thank you so much for watching. Nancy Weems, appreciate that. Jim Cody, thank you for the interview. Chris, hopefully, hope everything is okay with Lee. I know she's a really busy person, and appreciate her coming on tonight. So just going to kind of talk a little bit while we're waiting for tonight's guest to pop on. Historic Scott County Jail. We've got the dates open. Looks like Lee is there. We'll pull her on here in just a few minutes. Historic Scott County Jail. Just want to remind everyone, we've got dates open through the end of August, and then also during the months from February here through March 10th. We're taking advantage of the extra darkness that we have in the evenings, and we're extending the hours of the paranormal investigations. If you book an investigation up through March 10th, you will get 2 extra hours. You will get to be there and investigate from 7 p.m. Eastern time through 4 a.m. And we've got all those dates up. We've had a lot of dates getting booked there, as well as with Historic Rugby Village. And so all of that is on our website. If you want to go and find some of that, we've got all the information on historyhighwayshaunts.com, as well as historicscottcojail.com. So we've got all of those on there where you can book. We also have flashlight tours that we're doing every single night during the month of February, 7 p.m. Eastern through the week, 6 p.m. Eastern on the weekends, and then also guided ghost hunts that we're offering there if you maybe aren't part of a team and want to come and investigate with myself or with Christy. We've got those at both the jail and Historic Rugby. Just want to mention our hours that we're doing here, because we are here on the Cumberland Plateau and we've got some crazy weather here during the winter times. We are kind of modifying our hours. We modified January and was only open on the weekend, on Saturdays. Well, here during February, we're extending our hours, and we're going to be open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from 11 a.m. Eastern time through 4 p.m. And then also every single day for our tours. If you come by on one of the days that we're closed, we've got our numbers there on the door. You can call us, and if we are available, we would be more than happy to come and open the door and let you come in for a daytime tour. So, so stay tuned to our website for some special announcements and announcements about the weather and, the dates and times we're open. If by some chance you are traveling from, for a far distance and the weather is kind of iffy and they're predicting inclement weather, please call our number, and we will also have information about closings and such. So we'll keep you up to date on the information, as well as on our Facebook page. And as Christy said, historyhighwayshaunts.com has got all the information you need for both Historic Rugby Village as well as Historic Scott County Jail. So I'm going to go ahead. I want to get to our guest for tonight. Like I said, she's a very busy lady, and I really appreciate her taking the time to come on. We got some really cool things that we're going to be talking about tonight. So if you will, please help me in welcoming Miss Leitreanna Brown.
Hey there. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Lee?
Good. I got new glasses and they look crazy big.
I think they look great. I like them.
Well, it suits my personality, I think. Let me get my hair
There
down.
you
Now
go.
I'm home. Ah, that's better. So thank you for inviting me on. And
Absolutely.
I apologize for my delay getting on. I was finishing up class. I teach at Piedmont Technical College. So, I didn't get it all together like I had hoped, but I got out the door and it's been run, run, heave ho today.
I understand. Well,
Hey,
I
Sonia.
appreciate you coming on, and we got a lot of folks over in here that know and love you, and so we're just
Oh,
excited
thank
to
you.
have you on and be able to chat a little bit. It's so cool because, of course, I knew you through Facebook. I was on your show several years ago, and it was so cool to finally be able to meet you in person last year. I guess it was last year down in Alabama. Well, no, year before last down in
Right.
Alabama. Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
I
I've had a
know.
good time getting to know you, and I just love the fact that you ride motorcycles like I do,
Right.
and you've got a great concept with the small towns
Well,
and
thank you.
riding in. I mean, everything about what you're doing just seems like something so fun.
Well,
So
thank you.
yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
everybody should tune in to you. What a great concept, and you're right. Every small town does have a story.
Yeah, it really does.
Oh,
And
here come my
sometimes,
girls. This is Luna.
oh, hey, Luna. I tell you what, sometimes those small town stories are even larger than some of these big stories that everyone has known throughout the years.
I know it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I have one right now that I'm working on. There's a it was the Victorian era, and so many of the family members passed, and they had a big plantation. They were buried on the property, but lately, most recently, a big company bought the property, not knowing there was a family cemetery there. So the
Wow.
crane was digging, and clink, it really hit something solid. And this family was so wealthy, they had cast iron coffins,
Wow.
and
Okay.
it has a window and everything. And so it was several of the children and then the mother. And so, I mean, it was just, it's heart wrenching. But to
Yeah.
see those caskets, they had to move them. And to get a little, it's really like a time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
All the ornate decorations on those. And then learning about the family and how each one of them passed. But the one thing is that that's missing is where's the little girl? We're trying to
Oh,
find her, and the records are showing that she passed away. And bless her heart, she was buried in a similar cast iron coffin and as the family, but she was looking for her teddy bear. People kept seeing her
oh,
walking around looking for her teddy, or it was her doll, and the doll has a teddy bear holding it, and she couldn't find it. And they actually dug her up, and her casket was in the museum somewhere in
wow.
the area. So we're running around trying to find this coffin, and I think we may have found her. We're doing a big investigation in Newberry, South
Okay.
Carolina, at a place called. When you get back here, you've got to go with me
Yeah,
because it is
absolutely.
evidence is off the chain. The history is even more charming, but yet you've got that sultry yet ah. There's a lot of intrigue, a lot of love, a lot of family, but then there's also a lot of like conspiracy because there was some
Yes.
embezzlement happening within the railroad system, and it was just unbelievable what we've been able to uncover from some of that. There was a murder. I
Wow.
mean, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I'd love to show you the place.
Mhm.
The Gilded Bat is the name of the inn in Newberry, South Carolina. Brandon's going to be with me. I'll send you
Okay.
some pictures, or I'll post some and
Please,
tag
please.
you. This is a house built in the 1900s, and she's restored it. However, it's got a horror theme. It's got the Bride of Dracula,
Oh,
um,
wow.
Medusa, Lilith, Eve, and then on the end it is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and there's actual instruments from the Victorian era. And you can go when you rent it, all of these things are on display. A lot of things are a period to the house, but the lady's from New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
And she's got a coffin in the parlor, a Victorian coffin, and then she's got porcelain embalming table in the foyer. It's crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, you need to come. I can't tell if
Yeah.
it's the place that's haunted or these objects. I'm going to try Saturday night to pinpoint. But
Uh-huh.
this whole thing is just a great, great, great mystery for us to solve.
Now, were those graves that they accidentally dug up, were those unmarked?
Yes, they were unmarked.
Okay.
They did find the foot stone in the head, like a stone, but there were tombstones that were there, but they're not there now. So where did they go? I mean,
Mhm.
did somebody that was developing the property, did they pull them up? Did something happen where a family member took them? I don't know. See, there's so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
you'll definitely have to keep us posted on that, and I would definitely love to come over and check that out.
Yeah.
Um,
And when you
'Cause
come, we've got a whole ghost tour of places. One of my
oh,
students runs the ghost tours in Newberry, and Brandon's
uh-huh.
going to meet her too. I know he's around here somewhere, I think in the chat. But I just love hanging with Brandon because he's so much fun. People just tell him everything. He's everybody's brother, and
Uh-huh.
I can't wait to take him through because each one of these places. Put it this way, Jason Hawes and Steve Gonzalez actually came here to investigate some of this. It's just
Wow.
really that intriguing. But there's 3 or 4 stores that are in a row in the historic area maybe I almost said I said Newberry. I almost said Mayberry. But they're all haunted, and they believe it has something to do with the railroad again. Has
Okay.
something to do with it. So that railroad really must have been something else in its heyday
Uh-huh.
for it to have caused so much trouble. But
It would be interesting to do a lot of research just on the railroad itself and see what kind of information you can find
yeah,
tied to that.
if we have any people watching us or that will watch us later
Mhm.
that have that ability, that enjoy the investigation of the history, oh my gosh, please dig, dig, dig. Um, there's one haunting from the Newberry Hotel that I did get to the bottom of.
Mhm.
I hope I'm not just talking so much, but I just got out of
No,
class and I've
please.
been
Please.
and you know how much I love you. And by the way, the bangs rock. It makes your eyes pop. You look like
Well, thank
Cher.
you.
You look great.
Well, thank you. I've been trying to get used to them because I went and I had 7 inches cut off my hair
Oh
because
my God.
yes, 7 years ago, my hairstyle, not to get into the whole long story, but I think it scarred me because 7 years ago, the hairstylist that I was going to literally fried my hair, and my hair is down to my waist. And
Yes, it's
so,
gorgeous.
well, thank you. Thank you. And they fried it, and I found this amazing hairstylist in North Georgia, Elise, who was able to work it and trim it. And so for the last 7 years, we've been doing the deep conditioning treatments, all the stuff to keep it from having to chop it off. And finally, it was time that I just needed to chop all that old fried hair off.
Oh, now you've got it
Yeah.
all gone. Good
Yeah,
for
so
you.
it's still somewhat long, but for me it's short. So, and I thought, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
going to do something different and go with the bangs. And so I'm still having to get used to that, but I think I really like them.
It looks great.
Yeah. So thank you, and thank you to Dee Dee. I appreciate your compliment. I do just want to mention over here in the chat room, if anyone has any questions for us tonight, if you don't mind, please put them in all caps, just so, because I'm manning the comments, listening to Lee, and I don't want to miss your comments and get sidetracked. And also, looks like we've got a bot there in the thing that I have blocked. We don't have psychics offering readings and reaching out to people in the audience there. So just want to let you know, if you do get contacted by apparently Psychics Vera, she is not
I
associated
see
with the
that.
show. Yep, she is not associated with the show, and she'll probably give you a virus rather than a free reading. So,
Oh, yeah.
so just want to make sure we mention that. So, anyways, why don't you go on and introduce yourself, Lee? I mean, you are so busy
Uh,
and into so many things. And so, before we get into talking about more topics, introduce yourself and tell us what you do and how you got into the
all
paranormal.
right. My name is Leitreanna Brown, and I am a psychic medium and a paranormal investigator and author. I started doing paranormal investigation when I was about 6 years old. I was doing them on my own, and my grandma found out, and I got no, 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 and so I see Sonia's related to the Cromers. I know the Cromers in Newberry. Oh,
There
that's
you go.
sweet. Yeah, that small world. So I started out by doing research, and my grandma had me doing the history of places, and then the history not just of the home, but of
Hmm.
you know the property as well. And then I started with investigating by asking questions
Okay.
for the clients. There was a gentleman that had a ghostly encounter in his grocery store, and I don't know if you guys have. If you have an Amazon account, if you'll go to just go on Amazon and type my name in there, Lee Triana, and my books will come up, and it's the first one, Family Spirit. And you can see the first one I talked about, the woman in white. My grandmother had that case pop up for her and her mom. And
Okay.
I started asking questions about it. And she just turned her little pacer. Remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember a pacer, but she
I
whipped that
do.
around. And so we went in. That's it. That's my book. And so we went in there, and she took me into Mr. Herbert and said, answer her questions. And he looked at her and said, this isn't for kids. And she said, answer her questions, please. And
Wow.
that he did. And he told me, everything that happened and how this lady in white, she died because of a vagrant and went into her house. Her husband was deployed. He was actually drafted. It was so it was obviously World War II,
Hmm.
and it was just very horrible that he died and she died on the same day. They
Wow.
were they were married and everything, and she was pregnant when he left, and he had been working for the mill, the textile mill, and so he had his account. And where the ghost part comes in, a woman comes in a white dress, and she walks through and gets a container of milk, like a bottle of milk. Back then,
Yeah.
they were in bottles, and
Yeah.
she goes through and says the account number that it goes on, because even though he was deployed, the mill allowed him to keep his account.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
so she would get the milk put on her husband's account, and then Mr. Herbert would call the police, and the police would go to the graveyard and get the milk bottles off of her tombstone.
That's
It just
incredible.
Yeah, and my grandma had actually investigated it with her mother, and my dad had been a part of it. It was sort of a neighborhood thing. So he had had his own experiences. He saw the woman in white, and he was throwing rocks at her. I mean, he was a kid. He didn't know. It's not like he was like my
Yeah.
grandma, totally cool about things. And he was just terrified. And the next day he went back to the area, and the rocks were stacked up on her tombstone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what I got when my husband and I went was a heartbeat sound. Da 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 da. It had just morphed into that. By the way, if you hear a snoring sound, that's my French bulldog. It's not me. it's it's this one. It's this one. So that book, Family Spirit, is a book about my great grandmother and grandmother's experiences, and about my family. And it sort of takes you picture by picture, like if I put on a pot of coffee and you came to my house, and it'll just tell you. And I had the great fortune of being selected to be in Repossessed, which is a show on Hulu. It's on Apple TV and Disney Plus. It's on Disney Plus. I'm so excited. I kept telling Matt, "Does that make me a Disney princess?" I said it does. I'm just being silly, but my
Did you
parents.
ever think that you would be on Disney?
No, never. I've always been, too spooky to be on Disney, you know. But I've had so much fun doing the show. Before that, I did TV commercials. Yeah, that's it right there. I did TV commercials for Romper Room. So I did do some kids stuff. And I did some lecturing about animals and spirituality of animals when my dad was working at Ross Allen's Reptile Institute in Silver Springs, Florida. He
Okay.
did some work for them. So, I've had a great time following in my dad's footsteps for a bit because he studied indigenous spirituality because Florida State University and University of Miami, they had an era, like a little area in the science department where they studied about animals' languages. That was the big thing when Dad was there last. Of course, that's been a very long time ago. Ross Allen's place has closed since. He
Mm.
did all my dad, and I've got to take this jacket off. So I'm
Sure.
sorry. It's
No,
just
no.
too
Make
hot.
yourself comfortable.
But the uh, Tarzan movies were actually
Okay.
filmed in the area where the monkeys were turned loose on the island that was there. And Silver Springs is such a beautiful place. I mean, the water is crystal clear. So, Luna, please
Yeah.
don't do that. She's trying to eat my headset cord. Don't do that, baby. So, I just feel like it was a great way for my dad to explain to me, and we can research together how the language of animals exists. And as I studied with the Seminoles that were attached to the institute, they talked to me a lot about animal spirits and about nature spirits in general, because a lot of people
Wow.
don't know what those are. And it's not a matter of things that have ever lived or died. There's other types of spirits out there. And I got to be involved in some cryptid research. I had a Bigfoot experience. I mean, I had a lot of strange things happen, and it all just kind of came to a point, a point in the road, and I followed it. So I wrote this book, me and a picture of margaritas and my husband and grandma and my mom, and we wrote Family Spirit during 2020. So that's how it started. And for some reason, I have been able to film with Ghost Inside My Child, my ghost story caught on camera. Um, my husband filmed with Paranormal Witness. I was a part of that. And then I was selected from the little YouTube videos I'd put out doing readings live. And they called
Okay.
me. I had laid down. It was about 11:45. A friend of mine that's a psychic medium that has filmed with them, she called me and said, "Oh my God, Lee, I'm so sorry. Are you asleep?" Yeah. But so she said, "But do you want to do this? Get up and put on some clothes." So I put on a shirt and a bra, you know, and then pulled my hair back and lipstick, and I did the thing. And, the Zoom video was like meeting people I had known my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I met them, it was when I met Mo and Marika, we had plenty of chances to be able to communicate on the internet, and we had to have a lot of time together so we could all figure out if we could mesh well together. And as it turns out, we really, really did. I mean, Mo's
Yeah.
Lebanese. His family's from
Okay.
Lebanon, and he was raised in a war zone, and he's
Wow.
Muslim. And so that I feel very privileged to have had an investigator that was not of the same faith
Mm-hmm.
as me or a faith that I'm accustomed to. Because
Mm-hmm.
then it helped me be a little more in tune to what he was looking for and how it would affect him. It's amazing how many similarities they were. I had no clue. But he's quite a gentleman. He really is. And he's like a brother to me. And his beautiful wife and two little girls are just adorable. I'm so happy I'm Aunt Lee. So, Mo's a good man. And then Marika, she travels and travels and travels, and she's been all over the world since the last time we saw each other. So we've had a really good time. learning about each other, and
Hmm.
genuinely, I mean, we feel, um, what's the word I'm looking for? We feel so passionately about what we're doing, about helping people with their haunted objects that
Hmm.
can be very frightening and very serious.
Yeah.
Um, it can impact people in horrible ways. Um, I
And
just
that's,
don't
oh, no, go
I
ahead.
don't know how to say that, if we don't get a season 2, I'm probably gonna stay on the same path and do the same thing because people have things, they don't wanna get rid of them because they know it's gonna affect somebody wrong, in a
Yeah.
very bad way. I mean,
Hmm.
I've had objects that have killed people in my
Yeah.
hands, I have to make sure that people are safe and,
That was going to be my
so
next question, actually. Do you enjoy investigating, or do you feel called more to investigate the haunted items versus a haunted location?
well, I feel called to, give voices to the dead because I know that healing comes in every stage of life, including death. And lots of times it's just so important, um, for us to be able to know where we come from in order to move forward. I can't remember who said it, but if those that don't understand history are doomed to
Hmm.
repeat it. And there's
Yes.
so much that people have been, so many people have been in the very shoes I've been in, and I don't have them to talk to. But there's dimensions around me, and those the veil is very thin.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why it's so much thinner than it was when I was younger, but
Hmm.
it is. I mean, it's super thin. I mean, I'm seeing spirit more now than I've ever seen in my life. And I don't think it's because my, spirit eyes open. I think that's just what it, I mean, the poles have shifted. We've got more electromagnetic field in the air, radio waves,
Hmm.
the Wi-Fi signals and things like that. I just feel like there's just more out there that can affect it. I saw in the messages, does Leitreanna get messages in
Yeah.
dreams? Yes, I get some symbolic dreams. In fact, I had one last night,
Mm.
and I was thinking, "Oh my God, what does this mean?" Because I could tell there was, symbols in it. This means something. This was Creator trying to talk to me, or I was picking up on something. That I'm an energy reader, is what I do.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so I can read energy of a place, of an object, of a person. I'm kind of, psychic medium. Okay, you can call it that if you want to. I call it an energy reader. It's not near as pretentious sounding, but this is something that I learned to do, and from my family, I inherited some of it. But yes, I do get dreams that are messages, and I've had to learn what these messages mean. There was training here at my house with my grandmother and my great grandmother. My great grandmother trained my grandma, and my grandmother and mother trained me. And they are Christian. I am too.
Hmm.
Well, I'm indigenous, and I don't know
Hmm.
if a lot of people know this, but the Cherokee actually prophesied there would be a Messiah. So it was a very short trip for them to be converted to Christian. And
Hmm.
my great grandfather he left the reservation in order to become a minister.
Oh,
So
wow.
a lot of the symbols are in the Bible, and I was trained that way. But
Okay.
I do get that. And I see someone says Miss Judy. So my mother, and yes, she can do reading still. My mom is 79 and she can read palms, and we did a big thing for the Humane Society. It was called Wagaween. So cute. And that's where Luna came from, actually. I have a program that I'm developing. Please be in prayer for me. It's called Shelter to Service Dogs. And
Okay.
the Humane Society's already got a program where if a veteran would like to adopt a dog, they can do that very easily and have some of the expenses and care for the dog, consumed and absorbed by the Humane Society. In fact, you can bring them back there for treatments and shots and stuff. but I'm talking about taking a
Oh,
shelter dog and making them a service dog. And we've
wow,
gotten some
that's wonderful.
sponsors. Yeah, we've got
It's a big job.
sponsors now, and it's starting to roll along. But yeah, so I did readings with mom, and we had our lines, both of our lines were twice the size going to the bar. So we felt accomplished. Oh
Nice.
God. Yeah.
We
So
got a few more questions over here. Sonia
uh
says, "What is the most haunted item you've dealt with?"
now when I say most haunted, that term comes to mind. Whew, I have
Or we could
had,
even say the most dangerous.
yes, because the most dangerous is one thing. The most haunted is could be something different. The most dangerous that I held was a book of the dead that is from the Muslim faith, and
Okay.
it's supposed to be the forbidden book, and it tells many secrets that you're not supposed to know, and reading it will actually damn your soul. Will
Wow.
actually, yes, and so I'm holding the thing. And Mo's tripping out because, don't read it, don't look in the book. And I said, baby, it's not going to hurt me. I can't read it. I can look
Is
at it. It
is it
doesn't make
in
it. It was in their
their
or
language?
Arabic, I guess it would be their language, and it didn't bother me at all. I was like, just calm down. I can't read it. It's not going to stick with me. None of these little squiggly lines mean anything to me.
Hmm.
So, that was, but it was very. I could tell by the person that brought it in and by Mo's reaction and the way that I was breathing, it felt like I was breathing through, like I had a filter over my face because it was harder to. It sounded like Darth Vader trying to breathe. That's what it felt
Okay.
like. And I knew that there was something very powerful about that book that I didn't need to read. Sometimes harm does come from knowledge. I'm just glad that I wasn't tempted to hold it to read it because I couldn't have.
Yeah.
But let's see if there's another one.
Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, Bob says, I like buying antiques. Is there a quick way to tell if an item is haunted when you are shopping?
Just if you love antiques the way I do, I love them so much. It's very easy to, honestly, you could take a compass and sit it on the object. If the
Okay.
compass cannot find north or south or whatever it is, the energy from the object will pull the poles. So a compass is a great way to do that. You okay? Okay. My husband just came in. He's coming in late from class. I was hoping nothing bad had happened. So, like a deer.
Yes. I think I had my alarm just went off here at my driveway, and I think it was I just saw 5 deer out in my driveway a few minutes
Oh,
ago. So hopefully that's what that is.
uh-huh. He hit a deer last weekend during an
Uh,
investigation. So, but the compass, the poles will pull. And it's not
okay.
like lighting a candle, there's no wax involved. If
Right.
there's a breeze, they could blow it out. You could be getting a false reading.
Hmm.
But the compass, if you'll just set it down on it and see if it'll bounce because you wiggled it and,
Yeah.
your weight of steps and everything. But once it settles down, if it bounces back and forth, yep. So get you an old compass. You could find a cheap one. You could actually download an app on your phone, but I think that it's better to, if you're going to use it for ghost hunting purposes.
Yeah. And that way you take everything out of the
Mhm,
equation, all the possibilities with
mhm,
anything messing with it from a phone.
right.
That is a great piece of advice. And thank you, Bob. Um, let's see. And then, of course, I wanted to show this. Becky says you're an awesome person, Lee, and that she's happy to be your friend.
She's so sweet.
Daryl says, if the item is haunted, do you remove them? And if so, what do you do with them? Where do you take them?
Okay, when we remove them from someone's home, sometimes people were very attached to these objects and they didn't want to have them removed, so I would fix them. There's things that I would do to either conceal the energy inside to where it couldn't come out to affect other people around them, or I would pull out the negative. One guy brought us an object and he said, "Hey, I want it to be stronger." And I
Hmm.
thought, Lord Almighty,
Mm.
what are you doing? But he wanted it to be positive energy.
Okay.
And this thing had a little mischievous energy. So we had to take it from one to the other. And so I did a lot of energy work on it. And what I mean by that is actually pushing energy into it or pulling it out. And just tried to change the polarity on it. I mean, that's actually how you can affect a residential residual haunting by changing the electromagnetic field of what's there so that it would stop the repetition. A residual haunting doesn't have any intellect. You can't reason with it. You can't stop it. It's just something that repeats. And you know that. I'm just saying that more
Mhm.
for
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
listening. So, but there is something you can do, and that is change the polarity of the location. Therefore, things aren't in place to be able to continue, the repetition. Kind of like breaking the belt on your car that stops
Mhm.
it from going.
Mhm.
Kind of the same idea. Yeah, I enjoy uh, being able to change items because I don't want to actually have to take anybody's item. But if it's too
Mhm.
much, I'll just tell them, "Look, we've got to take it. This is just too much." And of course, they let us know whether they want that or not. But we do have actually, it used to be a movie set, but
Okay.
it was set up. It was in a school, the basement of a school, but it's set up to be a jail
Okay.
for a movie, and so all of those items are locked in.
Okay.
So it's being very well taken care of. There's security cameras on them, and when I go back, I'm going to be doing some more follow-up research.
Now, if now as far as there's a lot of theories out there from a lot of different people as to why items are haunted. Why, and of course we know or we think we have theories also why houses and people and such are haunted. Why do some items or why are some items haunted from your belief?
I believe that it comes from the intent of the person that owned it or the actions of something that happened. Let me give you an example,
Okay.
and you'll see what I mean. An auction house called me near where I live and said that they had a haunted object. And I thought, oh my God, what in the world? What's haunting it? How did this come about? I got there and it's a grandfather clock.
Ooh.
And I wanted it so much. I was thinking, I'll just buy this and fix the problem. Well, it wouldn't run.
Okay.
And the guy that fixed the clock came to the auction and said, "I have fixed this in the store. I have fixed this, several times. We've had to go through this several times, and it always stops at 3:15 whenever I get it back to the home." Well, what happened at 3:15? The owner of the home, a lady, she fell down the steps and she tripped. It was just awful. She fell down the steps end over end, and the corner of the clock, like that, she
Mhm.
banged her head right into it, and it killed her instantly at
Wow.
3:15. She hit it at 3:15. She was actually going to, go to the bathroom, get a glass of water and whatnot, and go back to bed. You know how we do. And
Mhm.
it just went awful that night. And, wow. So it would run fine at the jewelry store where he was working on clocks. But when he took it back to the house and was with them, he'd set it up. It's fine, and it would stop at 3:15. And he started it, and it was working at the auction house.
Yeah.
So they said, "Do you want to come take a look at it before we start the auction for it?" And I said, "Sure." And they said, "Well, we've got 20 boxes of things. Go ahead." So, I take my ghost box and my headset
Mhm.
and the K2 meter. And when I touched it, I heard a lady say hello. And she said, I don't mean to haunt this clock. It's just the last thing I saw before I died." And see the fear that was rolling down the steps with her, and then that impact. with that, and then her dying from it, it has marked that clock, and some of that energy is in there. She was trying to undo what she had done, and then I had to explain to her, please don't do that. You can't change it. This is called a residual haunting. You're not
Mhm.
doing it. She said, no, it's not me. And I said, I think you just need to go where you need to, and
So,
don't worry about this clock. So off she went. I assume she crossed over because we never heard any more from her. The
yeah.
clock would stop at 3:15.
See, that's fascinating because for several reasons. One, just a fascinating story, but that this item was haunted by a residual haunting versus alive, I guess, a possession in a way.
Yes, yes. There's a big difference between an actual entity using it as a vessel, like
Mhm,
Annabelle,
mhm,
compared to an item having a fragment of a memory or a fragment of a feeling. Like there's one that we did. It was an object from a serial killing. The serial killer went in this house and he did this awful thing, and this object in the room became, affected
mhm,
by it, and it wasn't going to be undone. So we had quite the problem with it. And I had to address it, see what I could come to with it. Now Mo is really good at getting everything sized up, and get the entity to speak with us, or whatever there is going to communicate with him. Marika's going to dig and try to
mhm.
find more information about the location and what I see or whatever. I do the figuring out, okay, this is what we're talking about, and how do we undo it so that we can let the person keep the object, or let's repossess it. And I want to research it. There's some new papers that just came out about haunted objects, and it's in relation to the Rhine Center, which is part of Duke University. And the paper refers to these objects as infestation of objects. And it obviously doesn't mean bugs, it
Yeah.
means the energy of it.
Mhm,
If there's uh, the way that this paper read is that if an object is used for something very negative repeatedly, like some ceremonial knife or goblet, or I can't imagine, but something
mhm.
ceremonial that's very negative, that it will become completely encased. That type of energy will, there's no undoing it.
Yeah.
And, I don't agree with all of that was said, but I understand where it's coming from.
Mhm,
Um, I have had objects that were used in Catholic churches that were used repeatedly with the most genuine, loving, intention from the congregation as well as the priest. And they felt so beautiful. It would just, very soothing, very caressing. It's like
mhm,
taking Alka-Seltzer, everything just, ah,
mhm.
But then there's others that, you know, pretty rough, pretty
Well, it
rough.
goes to show, I had a friend who, and I've mentioned this before, but I've had a friend who was doing a school project, a science project with her son, and they took water. They took two kinds of water there, and they did they talked to it, played very positive. They had these positive intentions and sang to it, played positive music, did all this positive stuff every single day for, I want to say it was about 6 months, to this water. And on the other, it was, they were very negative, the things that were said, the things that were played, the type of music that was played in the shows, and that kind of stuff. And they actually took it to this water, there there in it was in London, Kentucky. And they it's actually where they produce some water, bottled water, and they had it tested, and the pH level, the numbers on it was absolutely different on the positive water versus the negative. And she said when you tasted it, it tasted like honey, and the negative water, it had just this. it was very stagnant and almost putrid. And she was talking about the negative and positive intentions, and I think that that can be the same way, especially if you're dealing with
Absolutely.
something residual. If everything is negative around it, that's what that's going to take on, and that's essentially going to become that item.
That's right. Um, I also have been doing some reading about, let's see if I can take these off because I think they're causing a glare. Does that look better?
Either way, whatever's you're
Okay.
most comfortable
I think
with.
I can see the writing a little better. I was just trying to think how it would look. Okay, so I was doing some reading about sacred geometry
Okay.
and how the seed of life is created. It's just a simple vibration that you could put salt or sand or whatever on a
Mhm.
vibrating table, and it will naturally make these patterns
Like a
themselves.
snowflake or
Like this,
like,
yes, and a lot of
yeah.
snowflakes have them as well, and it shows you how the energy that makes all of us is
Mhm.
in every little object. And then I just thought, wow, that's fantastic. I showed a little bit to the class, but it was a little more than what Ghost Hunting 101 would do. So I'm going to save that for like maybe 103 or 104. But I'm
Mhm.
going back to let me get back to another thing I wanted to point out. Salt is a neutralizing effect. If you use salt on battery acid, it has a tendency to make it more neutral. Baking soda is better, but using salt, like those Himalayan salt lamps
Yeah.
that are shaped different ways, and the light being inside of it basically makes more of the salt resonate out, and
Mhm.
it's good for asthma, breathing problems, for acne, for your nerves, skin care in general. It helps with stress. I mean, there's just so many things. And like, the Dead Sea,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that, there's a lot of pills that are actually made from the Dead Sea salt. And people take them for different things, and it's supposed to neutralize the illness that you have. But the whole idea of being able to balance that energy out is a lot like what I do with objects, and that's how salt comes into play. And iodizing salt water to make holy water. That's how that works as well. You're literally, scientifically, it makes sense. When you add
Mhm.
the spirit to it and the spiritual intention to it, you're getting double and triple the effect. And then if you add God to it, of course, it eliminates it altogether.
Mhm.
But lots of times it's a matter of convincing the owner of the haunted object or convincing the owner of the home that this is going to be okay, because lots of times you can have people completely clear of illness or completely clear of a haunting or negativity and whatnot, and they'll end up right back in the same position a few months later because that's what they expect. So there's a lot to it, and
Absolutely.
being able to keep in touch with our clients is something that I take very seriously too.
Do most people want you to remove the item, or do they more or less want you to sort of stabilize it?
If it's something pretty valuable, they'll
Mhm.
say, I want to keep it. If it's something very sentimental, they'll want to keep it. But if it turns out they are able to see what it actually does, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, they're like, I don't want it. But I've noticed something really, really interesting. I still haven't put my finger quite on it. People that have a negative object that's a sentimental one, like, a locket or something that's got a picture in it, they have an unnatural attachment to it. I couldn't
Mm.
pry it out of their hands, you know? But then after I work with the energy on it to try to neutralize it so it's easier for them to manage, they'll turn around and say, I don't want it anymore. You can have it. And I'm
Wow.
not trying to take their object. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah.
It's so unique. It is such an interesting field with this, because you're dealing with what people want and what
Mhm.
resonates with them and how it's reacting to them and what it really is. It's just a whole lot to
It's
unpack.
so much different than a haunted house
It
or
is. It
yeah,
is.
or land. I mean, and that's what do you find that more from your cases that you've worked that there tends to be more of a residual haunting connected to this or more of a possession type haunting with it
Let
or
me think.
spirit.
Well, there's a lot of objects. If you watch, Repossessed, there's a lot of objects that never make it on the show because, I'm
Sure.
feeling it and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's such a sweet grandmother object. I mean, I can see her, I can feel her energy. She's so precious. And she, took this with her to church. It's her hanky, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But then on the flip side of that, when I get the bad ones, those are the ones that make it. So
Yeah.
I would say I'll put a number like 65%
Okay.
of the objects that we get have some sentimental value, may have a look to them that's a little bit, it might be a little bit spooky or something like that. But, I've had books that have come in, and nah, it's just, I feel something. It's a fragment of energy, but it's not haunted. But boy, when we do have it, whew,
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
yeah,
sure.
suicide objects. Oh, those are
Mm.
really bad. That, because then I get to see what it was they saw before they died.
Is that so you see when you are touching these items?
It's strange. Sometimes I can see it, sometimes I can hear it. So I'm either reading lips or trying to picture what they look like.
Wow.
It'd be great if I could put it together. But then when I do get it together, it is so overpowering. I have really had some great times looking back at the film because the filming, because there's a point where I actually had direct contact with a spirit. It was nothing negative. I
Mhm.
could see him, he could see me, I could hear him, he could hear me, and it just seemed like, we were like that, though we couldn't touch, we were just going through each other, but we were trying so hard, and it was almost like magic, uh, like the feeling of static. But then some of the evidence we caught was pretty stellar too. So
Yeah. How do you, in experiencing some of these real intense situations and real intense stories and items, how do you unpack that and how do you essentially take care of yourself after dealing with all of that?
well, I don't usually um, I do shield whenever
Hmm.
when I'm touching these objects, but I like to go about every bit of it like, I'm here,
Hmm.
let's figure this out, talk to me. And when I get first contact, I start to question, what is this? You can't believe what you hear or see. Sometimes it takes a little bit for the message to sink in as, wait, this is something else. So, what the way that I work that out is, instead of using like bath salt, you know,
Hmm.
I actually use body scrub that's salt. Um,
Okay.
I had talked with John Zappis about this
Hmm.
several years back, and he told me, if you want to make sure you don't have an attachment, besides the fact that you say the things, you can touch me, but you can't harm me. We can communicate, but you cannot communicate or have any effect with me or my family or my friends or loved ones. And you set those parameters. Then you can also, if you use salt, like I said, it neutralizes things. A spirit cannot maintain contact and use your energy, pull your energy, if you use that. If you have the intention to break that
Hmm.
and then you use salt, it will definitely do that. And John believes in using water,
Okay.
putting things in water. Um, for me, I encapsulate it with smoke. I try to put it in smoke and seal it.
Mhm.
And if I can literally seal it up in its in a different type of energy in a box and that kind of thing. Very ancient way of doing stuff, but I just fell right back to the old stuff. And what what I remembered, what I'd been taught years ago.
Mhm.
Because a box that has mirrors on it
Mhm.
or reflective surface, and you've got, an energy inside of it, it's going to ping, 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 ping. It's not going to be able to find its way out, and it'll build itself up ding, 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 inside of it, but eventually it'll just go dormant because there's no way out. It
Okay.
bounces out of itself, just kind of puts itself to sleep. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
So,
That
yeah,
makes a lot of
that's a
sense.
very, very old way of doing it, but
Well, and speaking of teaching, I've had the opportunity to listen to your lecture at several events that we've done. I think we've done
no, thank you.
3 or 4 events together, and you give a good lecture along with Matt. And I know sometimes Blaine is up there with you, and I know folks. I've seen you on posters and all kinds of events that you've got going on, and I definitely encourage everyone, if you get the opportunity to listen to Lee speak, you definitely need to take up that opportunity. And then
Oh, thank you.
also her books. We've got we're going to put the links to those there on the in the comment section. Um, but talk a little bit about your teaching and stuff that you do, if anyone is interested in taking one of your classes.
I'm teaching Ghost Hunting 101 right now, and we started out with the first week we ended it with a ghost hunt at a very popular bed and breakfast in Abbeville, South Carolina. It's called the Belmont, and it's listed on one of the top 10 locations in South Carolina. It's a very fun place to go, very historic. Abbeville is where the Civil War started and ended.
Okay.
So the paperwork where that we succeeded from the Union was actually transcribed there and signed. And then actually it was written somewhere else, but regardless, it was signed there.
Wow.
And then when we surrendered, it was signed in Abbeville. So the cobblestone streets. There's also a big thing about the Revolutionary War. There were a lot of French Huguenots that lived there, and there's a lot of very old ways that came over from Europe, from France for that. So it's a beautiful place. So we always investigate, like, take for instance, my goal is the way that I want to do this is have satellite places where I can be teaching in like a different tech school in Alabama or Florida or Pennsylvania or Maryland or Connecticut, whatever.
Mhm.
And so we can do this by Zoom. And then at the end of the class or in the middle of the class, I would come there to do a ghost hunt
Mhm.
and make sure we have time together.
Yeah.
But so I teach psychic. It's called Your Psychic Connection.
Okay.
And so I talk a bit about methodology and types of psychic ability and how you can look for those traits in yourself through the use of divination. Do an exercise, and what did you feel when you were doing that exercise? Did you hear it? Did you see it? Did you, those kinds of things? And it'll help you understand more about your gift. So there's a little bit of that, and it's written like a journal so that as you do them, you can write it down. Another one is called Parapsychology 101. So that's Ghost Hunting 101, and it's written in a journal form. So basically, it takes you from the history of ghost hunting. I mean, I'm really skimming over it because there's
Yeah.
so much. I mean, there was a Roman named Pliny Younger, Pliny. I think is Pliny Younger, and he bought this house for a song and a dance because the
Mm.
previous owner disappeared, and so the family rented it out, and the family ran in the middle of the night and said the place was haunted. And so he was able to purchase it because the family figured, we need to just get rid of this house. It's going to be
Mhm.
problems. Well, Plenty was at his desk and he was working late and he had his lantern on and he looked up and there's a man standing there. And he walks over towards the desk and he walks past him and heads out the back door and he points, the spirit apparition points to the backyard. So Plenty jumps up and follows him out there. And he looked at Plenty and said, "I'm here." And then poof, he's gone. Well, Plenty he doesn't actually call, there's no telephone, but he gets the police to come out to the house. And he said what he saw, excuse me, what he saw, they dug a hole right where the spirit pointed, and there's the man's body. So he was murdered and buried in his own backyard. And, if you study about it, you don't really find out what happened with the case. Do they figure
Mhm.
out who murdered him? I don't know. But I do know it was a pretty amazing case. And the Romans actually had so much haunted activity, they called it mirabilia. They gave it its own name. So, and then of course the Victorian era and all the death that was seen and
Mhm.
the way people tried to deal with it, that's a whole thing. And then the different
Mhm.
spiritual societies that came out from that, and the role that Harry Houdini played in that. I mean, he's my
Yeah.
hero, man. I love him. Yeah, he was something. So I talk about these kinds of things, and then also if people have psychic children, I have a book called "So
Mhm.
You Think Your Kid's Psychic," and it's
Mhm.
just basically, here's the things that you might see from your child, and this is what this means, and here's some activities you can do to enrich them. And part two is due to come out. And I've written a little book called, yeah, there it is. I've written another book. It's called um, Tales in the Dark. And I have a thing for old campfire story. There it is. I have a thing for old campfire stories.
Mhm.
And what I love about Tales in the Dark is that I've taken stories that are from the turn of the century through till about the 40s. And
Okay.
as with every tale that I'm putting powder on, sorry, I'm trying to look better for you, Miranda.
Oh, you're fine.
You've got a lovely group of people watching. So, but anyway, the Tales in the Dark is taking the old campfire story type stuff, and what it's doing is I'm telling it like I'm adding my little spin on it.
Mhm.
Very exciting. And then I go back and I cite in the back of the book where I first heard the story
Oh,
and where you might can find it. So
I
I did
love
my due
that.
diligence. I changed it, and I even
Mhm.
have tips of how to tell a child or anybody that's interested how to tell the story and make it
Mhm.
more spooky. There's even a good recipe for s'mores in there.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love how you
Microwave them. Microwave them so you don't
ah.
get burned. It's pretty cool.
Well, I love how you take all this from so many different perspectives from and really including it as kind of a family thing with people who are dealing with children that may have psychic abilities, and especially if they don't have psychic abilities, and how
Right.
to deal with that. I would imagine that that's especially in this, where we're located, because I think from the stories I've heard, you're very fortunate that your family was really involved and they helped you to grow that and helped
Yes.
you to accept. And you hear so many stories, especially around here, of people who have had abilities, and maybe their grandmother or great grandmother helped them, but not so much their immediate parent, their parents or immediate family just wasn't very accepting of it. So I love how you have these different resources and options for people who maybe don't really quite know how to deal with that sort of thing.
I thought this one might be fun for elementary going into
Hmm.
middle school age. Something fun for them, and maybe it'll open doors. I
Yes.
do think that a book about different types of cryptids and spirits and things like that would be in order at some point.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I've got some more thinking to do
And I love
about it.
it's illustrated by Rex.
Yes,
We've
it
had
is.
Rex on the show. Yeah.
Mhm.
Amazing artist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's an amazing artist. He did all of the all of the art in there. He's in the back of it, with the photo. I wanted to use somebody that we know that's in the paranormal genre.
Mhm.
Great guy too, great
Yeah.
guy. And
Very,
see,
very
it's got the
yeah.
campfire stories.
Mhm. And let's see. And then, of course, I know if anyone has heard your lecture, they get to hear your husband, Matt, talk about his experiences that he's
Right.
had. And
Um, his
the,
episode of Paranormal Witness is
uh-huh.
called The Coven. It's still in the top 7 most viewed episodes of Paranormal Witness. And
Wow.
it's really intense. What he lived through is amazing. He was a young teenager, and his stepdad was going to college and working, and there he was next to the oldest of 6 children, and it was just it was just so much, and what he had to do um, to stay there and protect his brothers and sisters.
Wow.
It was just insane.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
Well,
if you read Family Spirit and you read Bloody Thursday, you'll see why I married my husband.
okay.
Yeah, it's our little story in there. So,
And then, of course, your podcast. Are you still doing your
yes.
podcast? Is what is it weekly or is
It's
it?
every Monday night starting at
Okay.
7 to 9, and it's on StreamYard, but it goes over to YouTube and Twitch and Twitter, and I've got about 20,000 either followers or friends on Facebook, about 18,000 on Instagram, and 12,000 on TikTok, and it just broadcasts everywhere. I've got people on YouTube. The biggest part, I have 500,000 subscribers on Roku, and
Oh,
so
nice.
that's a great opportunity to get the message out, and we have some really great conversations. So, Family Spirit International, and it's produced by Supernatural Inc. with Brandon, and he does a great job for me. I appreciate them giving me a platform. And so I hope you guys will watch. Right now, we're doing a little series for the next several months. It's called Tell Me Your Ghost Story on Family Spirit International. And I'm looking for people that have had paranormal things happen to them, but they're like, everyday people.
Mhm.
They weren't out looking for this. They were just going to get a cup of tea in their kitchen, and they reached for a ceiling fan, and instead of pulling the chain, something grabbed their hand, something like that.
Wow.
And, I've had some people on that have had some crazy stories. I've been lucky. I had some other people that they talk about their psychic journey. So, a lot of people have had family members pass,
Mhm.
and it's opened their eyes to um, having the everlasting soul, and therefore they're more willing to look into it because they feel like their family member's still there. And so they've got questions to answer, and then when they get those answers, they have a lot more questions, and they just stay in the paranormal field. My classes have tripled in size,
Wow.
and I just give little teasers at the
Mhm.
paranormal conferences.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping, that's my dream, is to be able to have at least 4 different colleges, running them, or having someone being a facilitator for
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah. Was it hard to cuz the college you're working with, is it a community college that you're working
it's a
with?
technical college, yeah.
Technical. Okay. Was it hard to get buy-in on that?
No, they actually had someone teaching it years back, and they wanted
Oh,
somebody
okay.
to come back, and they had seen the show and liked it. So it's
Nice.
through, yeah, the people that take the class will get 3 hours of credit, but it's continuing ed class. So it would work as an
Okay.
elective, but not towards a degree.
Sure.
And actually,
Sure.
I'm working on my PhD in philosophy with a minor in parapsychology, which led me to teach because I'm having to study these things anyway. And I feel like being able to study it and then teach on it, it's letting me drive these things home, putting application to what I know. So I've got 2 more big tests and a dissertation, and I should be through. Oh,
Wonderful.
Lord, I'm ready.
Oh, I'm
I've
sure.
got, I have a book this thick, and it's like all the religions of the world. because I've been studying as many as I can that are the major religions
Hmm.
before this next test. And I got this book today, and I'm like, oh, I just want to read this book end to
Ah,
end, you know.
see, to me, I love studying about other religions, and it's always interesting how you can go back and you can find the spiritual or the spirits and ghosts, and just the ways that they handle their belief in the afterlife. It shapes, I think, a lot of the activity and stuff
It
that someone
does.
has. Yeah.
I've been doing as much as I can to study how Japan has um,
Mm.
opened up their paranormal eyes
Yeah.
after the tsunami and
Yeah.
that affected, because there's people all over saying that they have people come to their house and they're soaking wet, and they run go get them a towel and some clothes, and when they come back to the house into the door, they're gone.
Did you
Yeah.
see that episode of Unsolved Mysteries where
Yes,
they
yes, but
wasn't that just fascinating? I
so
mean,
fascinating, and I was able to find one of the, researchers on that, but he only speaks Japanese, but I used to work for a Japanese company, so I've got a lot of friends that
okay.
they're not in this area anymore, they've since closed business here, but they're
Mhm.
still very popular in Japan, so I just call them and say, "Can you translate for me?" And then we get on a three-way chat, and oh my gosh, it's a whole different. Thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate that, Dee Dee. Thank you. Um, it's just a whole different way the supernatural affects them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And same with Muslim
Mhm.
and the beings that are in their culture.
Mhm.
Amazingly, my husband dealt with that when he was in the Middle East with the military.
Mhm.
Just it's just all very interesting. Everything about the supernatural world, is just mind blowing. God is an amazing.
Absolutely.
Our creator, is just absolutely amazing. There's so much we'll never know. And but I'm just going to do my best, try to learn as much as I can. I've been scouring all the books of the Bible. I didn't know that Moses wrote 11 books.
I didn't realize it was that many, but it's interestingly enough, when I did trivia last week, that was the one of the questions was who wrote the first four books of the Bible, and we were sitting there at this Mexican restaurant, and it was like, and that was one of the first questions that they asked in our trivia game, and of course the answer was Moses. Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
yeah,
I had
yeah.
no idea that he had done so much. The Apocrypha in itself is, there's so much information that backs up what's in the Bible that we have now. Although I don't recommend, and this is just me, I
Hmm.
don't recommend reading the King James version of the Bible because so much of it has been filtered out. King James was not a Christian when he had the Bible rewritten, and
Hmm.
I just know that um, there's you need one much earlier than that. Maybe one
Yeah.
of the Ethiopian Bibles would be better because it's even got the Dead Sea Scrolls in it.
And that's what's interesting too, because in this area, you see you see the uh, stickers on the cars that if it ain't King James, it ain't Bible.
I know, bless, they don't know.
Yeah,
But I grew up in that, and so as
yeah.
I've read this stuff, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible." And they're still doing some translation on the, Dead Sea Scrolls, but luckily with these, we're dealing with people that are translating. We're not dealing with, um, an empire that is
Hmm.
rewriting something to their own benefit.
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Wow, this has just been wonderful, and I could talk to you about so many things. I'll have to definitely have you come back on, and
Yeah. Well, you know how
we'll.
I feel about you. You're just a
Well, thank
wonderful
you.
person.
Well, thank
Yeah, I
you,
just
Lee.
love it.
And so, why don't you use this time to again promote all of your socials, promote where people can find and follow you, even take some of your classes, and where they can meet you in person, because I know you got a lot of events coming up.
I do. I have a lot of events coming up. I will be at the Gilded Bat in Newberry, South Carolina, Saturday. So that's just in a few days. We are going to have a great time. We're going to do some investigating where Grant and Steve, Grant Hawes and Steve Gonzalez, where they investigated, found a lot of stuff there. We're going to go back to the Gilded Bat and just see what we come up with. Last time we were there, it was very active. After that, I will be, oh my goodness, the Wilson Castle, and then I'll be at
Yes.
MassCon. And then, let's see, there's another one in October. Oh, the Deep South Paranormal. I'm going to that one.
Mhm.
And, there's a couple more I'm going to add to it. I'm just
Mhm.
really I gotta work on my schedule some. If you just Google my name, Leitreanna, just spell it right, all kinds of stuff pops up. Please go to my YouTube channel. By far, it is the smallest of what I, broadcast with, and I'm trying to build that up. So just type in Leitreanna Terry-Brown, or you could go to at Family Spirit 96 because the town I live in is 96. And
Okay.
the LLC that my husband and I have is Family Spirit LLC. So Family Spirit LLC, Family Spirit 96, and you can just hit that subscribe button. I would love that very much. Please look on that YouTube channel for Family Spirit International, or you can go on Roku and see it that way. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Oh, everybody, if you have Disney Plus, or if you have Hulu or Apple TV, go straight to it. Our ratings are going back up again. It was really big during Halloween. At Christmas time, it wasn't so much. Now it's seeing another spike. So please be part of it. Help me get season 2. And if you have
Yes.
any questions, I'm right here on social media. Reach out to me. I'll tell you all I can. It has not aired in Canada yet, so I have to be careful what I say on shows. But what I can talk to you about, look, she's trying to say goodnight, everybody. My little baby. She's such a baby. Do you
Yes.
see?
How
Uh,
sweet.
she's so funny.
Oh.
Um, my mom said that whenever mom and I and my husband, we all lived together. It was my grandmother as well and my kids. My son got married 2 weeks ago, so, the baby's out and everybody's married and happy and doing fine. But, we got this baby, this one here, and, her name is Luna Princess Luna Simone because she's a French bulldog, and she thinks she's every bit a baby. And then I've got this one here. Her name is Ginger.
Oh.
Okay, everybody, let's all kiss and be good now. Ginger, I do believe she can see spirits, and just like children being, they're able to see. Um, Stop it, girls. Oh my lord, got a motley crew over here. Able to see in full spectrum. Children can see in full
Yes.
spectrum until I think they're about the age of 12 or 14, and that's when their cornea hardens. But animals can see the same way. But I do believe Ginger can see spirits. I really do
Oh,
because she
wow.
reacts. And well, Luna's starting to do it now. Oh, and I've got a new spirit guide. His name is Neil. I met
Okay.
him at it was a little haunted location to do with the local railroad that's since shut down. And he was I don't know if he was buried under the building or if he was in the he might have been burned in the uh, furnace
Oh, wow.
because he was connected to it all, and you could see him clearly with the SLS, and he was connected to the furnace. But I
Oh.
brought him out of there, and I brought him over here to the town that I live in, the train station here,
Mhm.
because it's more open and he's not by himself and everything. He came to see me the other day and told me to be careful. He was so
Oh.
sweet. His name's Neil. I'm working on him now to see if he'll go with us to travel. Do you use spirit guides?
I haven't. I haven't in the past. But no, it's something I'm definitely fascinated by.
Well, you're great at making friends.
Well,
And
thank you.
if you have meet a spirit and you feel comfortable and confident that they're not anything that's negative, that wishes you harm, that's trying to trick you. Of course, if that is the case, you could always get rid of them too, because you can just pray
Mhm.
through that. But Yeah, they can. If you can't get a spirit's nearby and they
Mhm.
won't talk to you and you want to know what's going on, you can ask them, the spirit,
Okay.
and they can tell you what they see.
Fascinating.
So it's a fascinating thing, but there's a little more to it than that. But I'll be glad to next time I come on,
Yeah.
we'll talk about spirit
I was
guides.
gonna say,
Okay.
I would love to have you on to talk about spirit guides because I think that that's something that, maybe causes a lot of confusion for people, and, I think that that would be great to have you
Yeah, I'll
back
have
on
to
and talk
send you
about
some
that.
crystals too. I'll send you some crystals and show you some things with that, and then we can talk about spirit guides.
That
I'd
sounds good.
love that. Thank you.
Well, I will send you some dates for a little bit later on because, like I said, I know you're busy, and so we'll get you some dates and get you to come back on here and talk about spirit guides.
Sounds good to me.
Love it.
Thanks for
Love
having
it.
me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lee. And thank you all so much there in the chat room for your questions and your comments tonight has been absolute blast. We've enjoyed that. And I'm just checking the calendar here to make sure, see what we've got on tap for next Thursday night. Let's see. It looks like I'm actually waiting on a confirmation from a guest. Hopefully, I'll have that tomorrow. That will be on next week. So I don't quite want to say who it is just yet until I get that confirmation. I will also be on Rex Nielsen's podcast next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. I know he has started his show back. And then also,
I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's good stuff.
And then also, stay tuned to the page because on February 17th, we talked about this. We also had TJ on as well as, let me pull this up while I'm talking about it here because this is a big event that is going on. We've got Greg TJ Justice that's hosting it, as well as author JB Coates, and it is going to be. Here we go. Get this pulled up here. It's another murder mystery dinner and paranormal investigation, and that's going to take
Ooh.
place at the Thomas House Hotel in Red Boiling Springs on February 17th. And so we had them on the show. I believe we had them on the very first show of the season, and we talked about some of their past events. But these murder mystery murder mystery dinners and ghost hunts are so popular, and I think they still have a few tickets left. You can either get tickets just to the murder mystery dinner, you can get tickets to the investigation, or you can get tickets to all three and also spend the night there at the Thomas House. I know there's a lot of great evidence that folks have captured out of there. So we'll have more information about that on the Ghost Biker Explorations page. That way, people can have the direct links to that. You can also go back and watch that podcast, find more information. But join us. That's going to be my first event here of the season, and that will take place on Saturday, February 17th in Red Boiling Springs, Tennessee. So again, thank you, Lee. It's been so
Thank
much
you.
fun, and we'll be having you back on and talking to you soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You have a great night.
Absolutely. And you all too. And we will see you next Thursday night. Take care.
Thank you.